So in this session I want to look at creating some sheet metal component that has a sort of angled face, but what we're really interested in is the height of the component and the width. So how do we control that in either ordered or synchronous? And in this sort of scenario I'll show you that synchronous gives you so much more flexibility because while we know the height and the width, you haven't got a single option in ordered without knowing what this angle is, and if you want to change it, it becomes so much more complex. So let's start with doing that model in synchronous. So I'll start with the line command and hover over this plane here, lock it with the F3 key, and we'll just put in some dimensions just to sort of tie it down, or sizes anyway. I'm more interested in the sort of positional side of things than the angle. So we'll start with the tab, let's take it inwards, and basically I want to just take off this flange here, so I can just pick on this edge, choose my arrow in that direction, and say take it out 300. Then I can do the same coming out here. Actually I'll start with the other edge. Let's take this one first. And then this one, because I don't know what the angle is, it's sort of a little bit more tricky. So let's just pull it out, and if I hit the tab key, I'll put in a rough idea of what it's going to be, and leave it at that. I will then come into my face relation operations. So if I click on that face there, and I want to make it coplanar with that one, that's going to adjust it in so that now the two are locked together. And obviously I've got to be coplanar. So that's a sort of horizontal plane anyway. So tying this one to this one is a good thing. Now we can add some dimensions to lock this in. So if I click on that edge there, right, let's bring it down so it's easier to see, and we'll make that say 20, and we'll lock it. Same with this one. This one we want to make change into modify the other end 80. Notice that the face chain option on the intent is governing how that moves. And lastly, I'll put a dimension from here onto here. And once again we'll lock it, and we'll say that wants to be say 100. So that's adjusted this edge in a little bit here, but we'll leave that for the moment. So the critical dimension here is the height. So if I click on there and here, place that dimension, lock it. I'll leave that for the moment, and I'll put in a last dimension between here and here, just so that you can see what that angle is. So now that we've constrained it, we can come back and choosing which way I'm moving. So I'm going to move the top edge. So if I go to 130, you'll see that the angle changes to suit that, but also we've got that maintained relationship between these two faces here as well. So everything's governed, and the dimensions sort of maintain what that design intent is going to be. So that's doing it in the synchronous mode. So let's look at doing the same thing in Audit. So switching across to the Audit environment, we'll do the same thing. We'll start with a tab and pick up on this face here. So we want 120. And click on that there. So we'll close the sketch. And that gives us our tab. So click on an edge, 300. And we've got our first flange. We can create our second flange coming off here. And then the third flange coming in here. Okay, so first issue is that I don't know what that angle is. So I can place that in here, but I'll have to go back to that first tab and edit profile. Always good to put dimensions on, so let's add a dimension in here. And then we'll have a angular dimension on here, and I'll leave it at that sort of size. So if we sort of look at this, we could increase the decimal places. You can see that it's sort of a rather odd number, and obviously if I go further out, it's sort of coming in. So anything that we put on here is going to be rounded anyway. So that sort of adds a first problem. So I can place that in there. Obviously it's become blue because it's over constrained. So to maintain those sizes, it's becoming difficult already. So 123.69. So if we come back to here, I can edit the dimensions on here. One, 2, 3.69, and that gives me something that looks about right. But if we try to work with that face in relation to, say, this or this back face in here, you're going to get problems with trying to create relationships. So that's one thing. The next thing is you'll see, even though we've used the same flange options in here, because this one's at an angle, the distance down is different, so the two don't even match. So that's sort of a bit of a problem, and in order that becomes really hard to try and maintain how we tie all that together. So you know, we could sort of go back and start again. So let's say we'll come off this face, and just do a, make that 300 by 20 and 0 rotation. And if I want to, I could put dimensions on, but for this exercise it doesn't really matter. So we'll take it up. So then I can add a flange to that. That's at an angle. But as soon as I start looking at this, let's take that step off. I can put in an angle, which brings it off, but it doesn't let me specify the actual height. If I place a dimension, it gives me the length of the flange from the base, and it gives an angle, but it doesn't allow me to adjust it to the right position. So again, we're sort of stuck in how we can manage this in Audit. So you can see that you know, there are really good times when doing a sheet metal component in synchronous gives you so much more flexibility in creating the desired model.